November the 7th. Welcome. Time for coffee and a talk about a realistic utopia of a fair society, as a fair society is the only form of cooperation that offers us the chance to banish violence and wars from our lives. Frankly, the US election results shocked and shattered me. But as Einstein said, if I were to remain silent, I'd be guilty of complicity. Now more than ever, it is important to define our goal with all possible clarity, to have a harbor to steer at, to land. Yet, to do that, I will need to recharge and to do some random searches that will or might not come up with what might help. But before I take the next 2 and a bit weeks off, I want to let you in the little secret why tech billionaires in particular stepped up this election cycle, sided with the aspiring autocrats, and bowed themselves a president. For that, let's dive into 2 anecdotes from my own family history. The mothers of both of my maternal grandparents were Jews in Germany when Hitler was voted into power. They were both married to non-Jewish men who stood by them. That's not where the similarities ended. The families of both the husbands were supporters of Hitler. And the husbands as well. Maybe, maybe not. How much so? Some members of my grandfather's paternal family even made a bit of a career in the SS, the secret police. When my grandfather's father died in a freak bicycle accident on a deserted path through the woods in April 1944, my great-grandmother Ella was immediately sent a deportation order to a concentration camp. That she wasn't deported, that my grandfather wasn't deported, was thanks to a related SS doctor who declared her officially unfit for any travel. What he proved with his action was that even he, an officer of the SS, wasn't implementing the replacement dataset that the Nazis pressed on the population into the generation process of his individual model of the world. If he'd done so, it wouldn't have allowed him to make a distinction between a Jew that needs to be terminated and a Jew that could live on. He only mostly acted as if he was implementing the replacement dataset to the full extent. And that's a problem every state ever in human history had to face as soon as any degree of force is used to make citizens implement replacement datasets that they aren't agreeing to into their full extent. But that plagues regimes specifically because the number of people who disagree and the extent to which they disagree with the replacement dataset is so much higher. In fact, it's what brought them all to fall, all these regimes before. Because when you force people into compliance, and compliance in this case means to exercise an internal action, people will not necessarily give in, but mask to the outside. When it comes to the generation of their models of the world in their minds, however, they will choose their own data. The realities they create for their own will at one point be irreconcilable with the reality the regime wants them to see. And they will seek new opportunities for cooperation, as by nature we want to cooperate. But cooperation can only happen when realities are at least partially aligned. And where reality isn't anymore aligned with the regime's propaganda. So the new cooperators they will seek will be other people not implementing the regime-required replacement dataset. And that's how resistant movements are born. To prevent this, a regime must survey its population and pick up the small details that reveal the persons who only mask before they can seek and find other cooperators that offer them a fairer deal. Things like an SS doctor giving a false certificate to a Jewish mother to save her from death. The Nazis tried with the Gestapo. The East Germans tried with the Stasi to an even greater degree, what takes me to my second story about the world's best secret police or intelligence organization. The Stasi was the Ministry for National Security in East Germany, a political police that had special rules, what meant they were above the law, basically. The ratio between formal and informal employees of the Stasi and citizens was about 1 to 2.5. So when three people met, when I met with my two friends, I'm autistic, so it's hard to imagine I had two friends. But when three people met, it was highly likely that one of them would write a report about what happened for the Stasi. This made sure that the Stasi had all the information necessary to isolate the maskers, to make it impossible for them to find other cooperators that offered them a realistic, fairer deal than the regime did before they could become a threat to the regime. But collecting all the information isn't enough. That's why it is a falsity to believe that just because we have the world at our fingertips via the internet, we are any smarter or better off than our ancestors. Having the data is only a good thing when you have a capacity to process and filter them for relevance, when you can find patterns and connect them to a problem that needs solving. That's why random searches are a threat to the individual who doesn't have the capacity to deal with the data that comes in at a random base, but offer the highest payoff in a collaboration. Only together we have this capacity to process the information found and make it relevant for problems that need solutions. East Germany, unable to deal with all the incoming data, choked on it. With the level of our connectivity today, the means of surveillance available and the computer capacity available, and AI with its large language models at the level that they are, it is possible today to accomplish what the Stasi couldn't. Huge amounts of data that represent our lives and our otherwise concealed thoughts can be processed and used to suffocate any resistance against the regime before it can get out of our heads. That's what every algorithm does today on social media. It pre-selects. And that is the difference between a regime today and any regime that came before. A regime today has a realistic chance to survive long term. It's up to us and our ingenuity in cooperation to prevent that. Yes, that's what I wanted to leave you with before I take my little hiatus and recharge. I hope to welcome you back once I'm back here. As always, you can read all the transcripts of my videos on my blog Hyperobject Mind. The link is in the bio. So until next time, bye.